All right, let's talk about Ubisoft. We got a lot to cover. So let's talk about this particular part because this was kind of like what Legal Mindset was talking about. Where are we at? So here we go. So Ubisoft developers reportedly reveal company brushes off legitimate criticism as toxic gamer talk, and DEI policies have led to brain drain. I'm glad, and I said this last stream, I believe, I'm glad that Asmongold covered that video about toxic positivity, because what tends to happen when Asmongold covers something, it tends to go pretty wild, pretty out there. Even though this is something that's been talked about for a long time, right? We used to call it positivity peddling, or you know, just echo chambers. I mean, whatever. You know, it's all the same shit.
We've arrived at the best possible term for it, I think. Toxic positivity. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm glad that he covered it, because now it's kind of like in everybody's mind, and people are recognizing it more and realizing that, yeah, no, toxic positivity is affecting a lot of the industries. It's not just gaming. It took over Hollywood for a long time. Still is there, by the way. I mean, you have a lot of actors. If you look at some old interviews
created in Hollywood,
and and correct me if I'm wrong. I think Wyatt might know the answer. God, please tell me the name of the actor. I'm like having a blank. The actor who played in Lord of the Rings, bro. Jesus Christ, man.
You tell me which character I can tell you.
Samwise Gamgee, Sean Astin.
No, I'm totally having a fucking blank. This is
what character?
I'm having a blank on the character. I have Dustborn AIDS. Give me a second.
What race were they?
Get
racist.
Long white hair.
Dirty elf.
Long white hair guy.
Gandalf.
Ian McKellen.
Gandalf. Saruman.
Christopher Lee.
Yes, Saruman. Jesus Christ.
Lee.
I'm so retarded.
Sorry, this is why you have a panel. Don't worry.
Don't play Dustborn, boys. You get Dustborn AIDS, and it's fucking over from there. So the guy.
Dust AIDS.
What's the name of the actor who played Saruman?
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee.
Right,
there's an interview of him talking about people failing up.
Exactly. Yeah. So Christopher Lee did an interview. And there's a lot of actors who have done interviews in the past that talk about this mindset of failing upwards, and now we call it toxic positivity, because it is a thing, and it's a big thing in the entertainment industry, and it's trickling down into gaming over the last few years, where nobody wants to speak the obvious, right? Nobody wants to say anything, because and you really can't blame them either, and we can get into that, you know, at the worker level anyway. You can't really blame them, because most people there are just to have a job or whatever. I get it, right? I totally get it. It's a lot of people's dream jobs to work in the gaming industry, whatever. Whatever, that's fine. But at the end of the day, it doesn't help the fucking industry, right? If you see everything burning around you, which is exactly what's happening at Ubisoft, right? Anybody with a brain can see that Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows should not be banked on as the two games that are going to save Ubisoft, because we already found out that one of them has failed, right? We knew Star Wars Outlaws was not going to sell, nowhere near what they initially planned. They had to reduce their net bookings by about 30% for the upcoming earnings call, which I think happens at the end of the month, in 2 days or something like that. I think on the 30th. They have an earnings call, investors call coming up. It is not looking good for this company, and it's because of mindsets like this, where people are just doing shit and nobody's saying, hey, man, that might not actually be a good idea. And it's because they either all think the same, which I find really hilarious, by the way, because they try to, if you look at one of the, I think it is Ubisoft, on their website, they try to say diversity of thought is like one of their, what they try to go for. It's like, who thinks these companies have any diversity of thought? There's no diversity of thought in these companies. They all think the fucking same. They all act the same. They all talk the same. It's like a 95-5 balance, where 95% of them are hardcore fucking either woke losers or they're just activists, and the other 5% are people staying quiet. But ultimately, they all think the belief.
They've bought into the belief that they have to do things even if they're not profitable, which is antithetical to business, right? And they've purged out all the voices that the pro-business people, and I say this as somebody who worked for large corporations and I've seen it, they purge out even staff that dare raise a question saying, hey, wait, this isn't really going to make us money. And they go, well, you don't see the vision, you're out of here, right? You're a toxic element in our workforce. We're going to fire you. We're going to remove you. We're going to demote you, right? And they've gotten rid of everybody everybody that would say, hey, stop, till they just have a bunch of people that are circle jerking them and telling them that they can do all these things, which many cases are even illegal, right? We've seen, especially in the United States, we've seen corporations doing hiring programs, doing employment programs where they just hire people of a specific gender or of a specific racial background. And they're often doing things that are illegal. You can't do that. Right. But they say, no matter what it is, no matter what the business is, no matter what the profitability is, we're going to do this because we have a agenda to push out in the world. Right?
I actually have a question for you. So you say it's illegal. So for, let's say like Ubisoft, right? Ubisoft has that mentorship program.
Correct.
Where they specifically target, I think, females, non-binaries, whatever the fucking bullshit. How does that work considering they're predominantly a French company?
Well, obviously they would have, I don't know French law, so I don't want to pretend I'm a French lawyer. I only know the French word retard because it comes up in this.
It's a great word.
It may be a very retarded decision, but like in America, right, that would be something illegal. And typically corporations will have branches or offices in another country, in which case they'd be subject to their employment law, right? So if they've got like a US-based office, right, and they're executing that policy, to the extent they're doing that in the United States, that'd be illegal. The same would be vice versa with the US and foreign countries and foreign laws, right?
Yeah, because if you notice, a lot of the companies that are doing mentorship programs like that are not US-based. You know, you got CD Projekt Red, which is another one too, right? CD Projekt.
And mind you, in other countries, discrimination is allowed. And there are many countries where it is indeed totally okay to discriminate based on race, gender, whatever. America is actually pretty great because we don't allow that, right? I mean,
I know they want that. They're desperate
on paper. They try to change the law. They're trying to change the law to allow that, but still to this date, we do not allow that.
Well, I know that for the UK, where I'm based, even though it's called the Equalities Act, they do have positive discrimination in favor of minority groups, and it has been used to aid said minority groups in a lot of easy ways.
Canada changed their I forget what they call it. It's not a constitution. It's like whatever the Canuck version. The charter. Thank you, charter. They changed their charter to say explicitly that anything they do under the auspice of quote unquote positive, right? You know, positive discrimination, positive promotion of those quote unquote discriminated groups is not actually impermissible. So they've actually changed their laws and rules. The US hasn't done that. Us having a constitution helps versus just recommendations.
Well, Ubisoft
it's basically them saying we're gonna discriminate against a certain group for the betterment of another.
Yeah,
correct.
But because that other group that we're benefiting is the minority, that somehow makes it just.
That's permissible. That's permissible because it's a underprivileged group, or however they say it locally, right? It might be a native group, or however else they say it, right? And many different Western countries have this, right? You see this percolating even in places like Australia, Canada, other Anglophone countries. Yes, certainly the cucked UK. I mean, you guys are dealing with it full bore right now.
Woof.
It's just that we talk about toxic positivity. I first heard about the saying in regards to content creators who are a bit too moderate for their own good. But you guys have just shined a light into toxic positivity as a legal framework, and we are seeing this spread across the West like a disease. Though I was going to say earlier on in regards to Ubisoft, this ain't a small company. This is a company that employs nearly 20,000 people worldwide, and for that toxic positivity culture to infest every single branch of the company just goes to show that if it can happen to Ubisoft, it can happen to any games company, no matter the size or scope. If Ubisoft can fall, and I dare say every games company could fall due to the toxic positivity phenomenon.
Well, that's also why I say a lot. Yeah, I say a lot too that, you know, it's not just one failure that's going to kill a company. Right? A lot of people say, you know, this game massively flopped, company's done. That's not the case. Like, if it's a smaller company, sure, maybe. If it's something newer, maybe it's their first project, sure, maybe. But if it's something established like Ubisoft, it's not going to take one project failing to kill them off.
They've got investors that'll revive the corpse just for the IP, right? Because there's some things that they've got that are valuable. And I think one thing, I don't know if we're going to mention it later, but they've even got activist investors that are already talking about divestment, sales, etc. So there's like, even if they they quote unquote fucked up royally and we're really losing money, there'd be somebody to come for the bones. It's the same thing with Disney, right? At a certain amount, there's something there beneath that's worth something to somebody. So they're not going to ever go away. It just maybe they're going to decline in prominence and they're going to be replaced. I see it largely now with a lot of the Asian companies that are coming up and having huge gains. So they're going to just be replaced as the market mover.